Hi, Carl. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. It's good to see you again.
Yes, absolutely. I was on Carl's podcast previously and had just learned so much from you, and we shared, and he's definitely I get his newsletter each week and always get a little bit of tidbit. So I'll be sure to link that in our show notes so others can check him out. But maybe for our guests who don't know you, tell us a little bit about what you do and kind of where you come from.
Yeah, and thank you as well. So I learned a bit on our episode as well, even implemented a couple of things after we talked about the topic. So, my company is called MarketVisory Group. We are a healthcare marketing agency. Our niche is private practice owners. The mission of the company, the mission of the newsletter you mentioned, and everything else is to help private practices stay private. And we kind of do it any way that we can to help. We just think care is better, when the provider owns the practice, because then all the decisions, clinical, business, whatever, are being made by those who provide the care. And then, we can just rest assured that we know that the patients are always at the top of the list. Not that it's not that way with others, but it's just sort of a little bit of an extra assurance. I've been doing marketing in healthcare forever. I've had one job in my working life that was not somewhere in that world, going all the way back to when I was a kid. My dad was a pharmacist, owned an independent pharmacy, still when you could find those things, very diamond in the rough today, but very common back then. And so I just worked in there. And then as I grew up, and then I worked in, large corporate 500 companies, MarketVisory Group for the past 8 years, always marketing in healthcare. I love it. For as hard as we work in marketing for this particular discipline, it's just nice to know that people on the other side of it are better off. That's why I've stayed in it for so long. It's a fascinating industry. It's a complex industry. And I find it's an industry in need because plenty of providers of care are really, really good at what they do. But it's made me angry. The word business was not uttered in medical school or dental school or fill in the blank school. And I've even had some other guests on my podcast say, they never came out and said that earning money by treating patients was dirty and ugly, but man, oh man, you got the message. And then they send you off into the world, and plenty of you open up a practice, which is a business, and you're smart and you can figure it out, but it's just frustrating that there's been zero preparation or exposure to that. And so that's where we try to study, and you as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we see similar things. And I know not everyone wants to be an accountant or a marketer, but if you are a business owner, you definitely having some baseline of that is
a little bit
is critical to your growth. And talking about it's made to feel dirty for making money. And I always just say you can't serve people if you don't make money.
Yeah.
So you can't serve your patients, you can't serve your employees, and you can't serve your family if you're not able to be efficient. And so there's a lot to unpack there. I think we all probably need some level of counseling that money is not a bad thing. There are bad people that do bad things with money, but not earning, not everything is bad related to money. So
correct. Yes.
And that's funny that you were a pharmacist.
No, my father. I am not. My father.
Your father. Sorry, that is correct. My mother's first job was typing all the labels on the bottles. And so she actually became a typing teacher. So that's funny. There's always something to be learned in
very
those
fast
types of
typing,
environments.
I would imagine. Yes.
She is a very fast typist. I don't want to say we have typing competitions, but if we did, she would win. You talked about your career kind of spanning, that you had one other job not in this space. How have you seen marketing in healthcare and marketing, from the private medical practice standpoint change? I mean, it's not the same referral and one town doctor. I think that's kind of where we always start, like the good old days.
Yeah. I mean, I like at the macro level, and none of this is terribly new. There's more models now, right? So there's the traditional old insurance-based, tried and true. There's more cash pay, either as, we are a cash pay only practice, either because they're membership based or they're just cash pay, or there's some kind of hybrid of them. Also not new. There's, there are fewer private practices than there used to be as hospitals and health systems and private equity come along and kind of gobble them up. You hear anecdotes of people, doctors and such who've done it. Now they're like, I want to come back out. It's not what I thought. It's not as, it's just, I don't like this again. And I want to come back out and go private again. At a micro level, online, I mean, this is not a great answer to your question, but I mean, everything changes every day. Nothing changes ever, right? Because, Not much, which is a silly answer, but you know, you have to be found online, and people have to like what they find when they see you. And so, just like in the real world, you know, go back far enough in time, there was no digital. If you were bad at what you did, or you were thought to be bad at what you did, nobody would come and see you. You still have to have a good reputation. You still have to provide quality care. People could get all wrapped around the gears of this particular online channel, or it's more social than it used to be, or it's more video than it used to be. And I get flooded with that stuff all day long. But I guess what isn't new is just the ability to sift and sort of the universe of stuff that you could do to, you know, air quotes, get out there more. What's the small subset that's really going to work for you? And so, not the greatest answer to your question, but it's just more like, you know, if you are insurance-based, how you go attract patients is different than if you're cash-based.
Sure.
At some point.
Well, and it's also, to me, you're that is different, but also what are you most comfortable with, right? So you may be a physician that loves being on video. And so you appear authentic and natural, and you can create a really strong connection that way. And then there's other people, they do not want to be on video at all. And so their tactic needs to be different so that they can be their authentic selves and present their practice in a way that's, you know, true and natural to them.
Yeah. Yep. That's true. That's true. But there's plenty of tactics out there. Too many.
Yeah. Too many. Well, okay. So if there's too many, where do you recommend that people start? Like how, you know, if they're like, you know, I have a website, you know, potentially we could enhance that and make that look better and SEO, some of those types of things. Is that where you start with kind of your own material first, or do you try to start doing videos and things like that tomorrow?
Actually,
where would you start?
Start before that. And the question is, so you have competition there, Dr. X. Why do patients choose you? Why do they choose you? They can choose anybody. And it's not only is it easier to choose and research, but it's easier to leave and switch. And so what is different and valuable about you? And that's a question that 1 in 100 is prepared to answer. Sometimes it's easy. Like if you are direct primary care or, you know, concierge membership based, you are, you know, by definition, very different than insurance-based, and you could talk about that. But what if you're not? What if you are a pediatrics practice and there's 5 other practices within 10 miles? What's different about you? What's special? Why would a new patient choose you? It gets, without that, if you're going to sound, this is the way I say it, if we don't have that, then you're going to sound like everybody else, which could be very high quality, but you sound like everybody else. So the way to win in your area is to be the loudest megaphone, to say the same things louder than everyone else, which makes you the most expensive megaphone. It's more expensive to be louder than everybody else when you're saying the same things. It's better if you've got what we call a core difference or a couple of them. That way, you don't have to be as loud. You just have to say what's different and valuable about you. And it's just more surgical strike. It's more strategic, and it doesn't have to be as expensive. But it's a hard one. It's a hard one for many. They don't expect the question, and they don't know the answer. And really, the way into the answer is you really have to know your competition pretty deeply. And people like me can get to that to a point. There's things that we can do to try to figure that out. But the local knowledge is golden, is key.
Well, let's make it easy. Let's make it a softball. And, you know, you're serving a specific patient subset that, you know, is not being served in your market. Or you have a very clear value proposition that's different. Maybe you have extended hours or, you know, like there is something that makes you different and you feel that is the core of your practice and how you serve people.
Yep.
What would be an easy way for someone to start? Like you said, I wrote this down. It's more expensive to be louder. So how can we be more strategic in getting started?
Right.
What makes me different?
If you've got that in place, then let's go to the basics, the basic blocking and tackling. A really good website, which doesn't have to be thousands of pages, a very good website that says that difference clearly, that makes it super easy for the patients to learn about you, the services you offer, this core difference that you've got, easy to navigate. And these are not terribly difficult things to set up. And, you know, you could go online after listening to this and Google, our website's dead. Our website's not important anymore. And you're going to get a lot of yes answers. I personally believe they're wrong because the website is that thing you own. You own it. You control what's on there. And that's rare. It's not so in social. It's not so on Google in terms of Google properties. Not so in a lot of other places.
It's your digital real estate, I guess.
It is.
How
It
I would
is.
describe
It is. It's that place you own. I tell clients, that you should consider that as important as your actual office, because it's the one place where you can control what's said, how it looks, everything. Get reviews. That's another one. As we all roll our eyes, aren't they fake? Aren't they this? A lot of some of that's true. But nevertheless, people want to know what others think about you. It's sad, isn't it? As many people trust reviews they read online as they trust recommendations from their own friends and family. I find that to be one of the saddest statistics I've ever read, because what it means is that people will trust what a bunch of strangers say about you as much as what their own friends and family say. But it's the reality. It's the reality. And
in these reviews, do you put testimonies on your website? Do you do Google reviews? Do you do Top Doc review? I mean, do you want to be in all the places, or do you try to hone in?
With our clients, we say, with our clients, we say it's Google. And if you want another one, fine.
Okay.
Not a problem. It's depending on the volume of patients you have. It can be difficult to spread them out to all other places. Most platforms do not allow you. Like if I gave you right now a review on Google, it'd be awesome if that review were automatically put in the 2 or 3 other places you'd like it to be. But you have no control over that. No third-party reviews service has control over that. Only I can, because they're my accounts. And so it means that I have to go do that. And you can ask me, probably won't do it, but I won't even grasp the question really, but you can ask me. And so website, reviews, and then, have a presence on social media, because that's where a lot of people go. Make sure your pages look up to date. You've got recent posts, some activity. It doesn't look dead and dormant. I like your analogy of, your actual, think of your waiting room. If your waiting room were dingy and the lighting was bad, would that create the impression you want? No. Think about your online properties the same way. Are they up to date? Do they look modern? Do they look like somebody would say, I want to find out more about them? Or would they go, ick, and leave? You don't want that.
Right. And on that social media piece, I think there's a lot of pressure of what does that look like? Is it a story every day? Is it a post 3 times? I mean, I think we get as business owners, and even for myself, do this every day times 5 times. And there's these formulas, and I'm I do not have time for that. And I know doctors are even busier than I am.
Yeah.
We really do need them focused on serving patients.
Yeah.
So what would be a once a week post, or what would you say to just get started and show that, you said, it's not a dormant account, there's some type of engaging content.
Yeah.
What would you recommend if you were to give a very basic formula?
What matters more is consistency. So pick a pace you can keep up with. So twice a month, once a week, just get on something you can stick with. However you're going to stick with it. Don't flood the system for a month and then go dormant for 4. It doesn't look
Got it.
It doesn't look good. Consistency is so important in marketing. And this is an area where that's true.
Well, and when thinking about doing any of these things, is this something that you recommend, physicians or any business owner tackle on their own? Or is it, is this something that needs to be outsourced? Because sometimes I think business owners, we worry about our voice being lost. We want it to be authentic and real in us, but we don't want to be in charge of a website, and we don't want to have to post the social media things.
Yeah.
So how can you work with professionals, and what does that relationship look like?
So should you outsource or should you keep it in-house, whether it's you or some staff member? Go to the consistency principle. That's number 1. And number 2 is the professional look and feel and insight principle. If you feel you've got those, then, and your budget's kind of slim, even if it's not, go for it. I mean, we've had, talks with prospective clients where they say they're going to do it. I say, you know what, go for it. If you can do it consistently and with the kind of quality that you're looking for, go for it. They come to us. They're too busy. They don't know what they're doing. They're comfortable, spending some budget money to give it a try. If you're going to look at outsource, it's tough. Marketing is a very intangible service. How do you know it's going to work? What's my guaranteed ROI? There is no guaranteed ROI. Why? Because, I can make you a lot more visible in your local area, but that doesn't guarantee that the people who now find you who weren't before are going to call you. It's out of my control. And a lot of those things are out of my control. What we do is we say you are month to month, so you can stop anytime you want. That's the that's the best way I know to reduce the risk of. And a lot of my competitors are month to month. Some are like you're locked in for a year or 6 months or whatever, and you can leave, but you still owe us the money. So you got to weigh those things. But if you're a startup, the one kind of carve-out I'd say, if you're a startup, your budget's probably very small. Just compensate that with your time. You probably have some more time. So get out there, meet people, build your local network, get a basic presence, and you can always scale up as you go. But for outsourcing, all bias aside, if you are even moderately busy, think about outsourcing because you want to be busy.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah. The goal is for you to be busy.
Right.
So, they may not, like you said, try it. And maybe if you're drumming up some more patients and your schedule's getting full, it does make sense to outsource it. You had talked about ROI and, I'm an accountant. So I'm always looking at, okay, what happened here? And I try not to beat on marketing too much because sometimes, you're spending the marketing money in 1 month and it doesn't show up in patient or collected fees until several months later.
Yeah.
But it's not a I'm spending money on Monday and I get the return on Tuesday type situation. Yeah. But what would be some of the metrics that you would look at to show that you're having success in what you're doing? Impressions or open rates. Talk to us a little bit about that.
For our clients, we try to track the number of new patients that they got who said, I found you online. And we track that month after month over time. All the other stuff is activity. So more visibility is good. It is good. Doesn't mean you got more patients. We don't know. We really try to track that. And when we are talking with a prospective client, even before they become a client, we ask them, so listeners, please, take this one to heart. What are your growth requirements? Not what would you like? What would be awesome? What are your requirements? Because a marketing plan, which is what we all go away and build in response to the large battery of questions we ask, are responding to that. And if you don't know or you're not sure, then we don't really know the size, scope, and strength of a marketing plan to come back to you and say, this is what I think we ought to do. But if you've got a requirement and so I need 10 more patients a month or 50 more patients.
Okay. That was what I was going to ask. Yeah. Like how specific? Like I need to see 3 additional patients per day or like, is that how specific you're getting on this requirement? The more specific,
the better. It's still tough to tie, cause and effect with the plan, but at least we've got something to go away and say, all right, the size of their problem is X. And the other thing we're going to need to know is what's the dollar value of a typical new patient. And for some, it's tough because they have a lot of different types and, whatever. So let's pick a conservatively bit of a low number. And then we know, all right, so if they need 25 new patients a month and each new patient's first year value is $1,000, all right, so that's $25,000 that we're kind of on the way, chipping away at every month. All right, so keep that in mind when we're putting together a marketing plan. It's tough. It's tough when you don't know these things. And it's tough for you too. It's tough for you to know, is this working? Well, we're bringing in new patients. Yeah, but I want to be busier. Like these are the I told you so conversations. I tell people like, I don't want to have that conversation 6 months from now, but that's where we're headed. And we both lose in that. Let's just do it now. What do you need?
When you talk about this new patient, are you helping train the staff or how are you capturing like how you heard from us? Is that going on a spreadsheet somewhere? I mean, I love spreadsheets.
Yeah. There's a couple different ways. So we are HIPAA compliant. We are a HIPAA compliant healthcare marketing agency. So what that means is that we can, if you'll let us and if you'll train us if needed, we can get into your records and look. And we can just tally them up for you. Now, what does that mean? Like with one client, we added a question to their new patient registration form. How'd you find us?
Okay.
It's as simple as that. And there's 3 or 4 choices. Other clients will tally it up and just share it with me every month. And we kind of add it to the tally and all the different ways. I found you online. I found your friends and family, whatever the referral source was. But, that's really the end all goal. It really is. And so why don't we just start measuring that and seeing?
So you talked a little bit about dollars and, that value of that patient in the first year and you want 25 patients. Is there also a rule of thumb of like, I'm collecting this much or my top line revenue is this, so my marketing budget should be this? I mean, how do you get started on some of those things?
There are, and I don't like them. I just find them to be very, just blunt instruments. If you are a mature business, you should be spending X% of your revenue on marketing. Like, I don't know. I could pick that apart all day. And I just picture the conversation, what I would do, which is if I were told that, I'd say, well, why? I mean, what do you know about me? And the answer is I don't, and it goes nowhere. So the reason is if let's just take that $25,000. So that's divided by 12 months. That's $2,000 a month. Okay. So in my mind, just for us, I'm thinking I'd rather not go above that on a marketing plan if I don't have to, because I would be comfortable saying, look, if we get the 20, we break even around here. So you're spending this, we're getting that, the break even. And by the way, if we do that, Dr. X, those are just the patients we can count, right? So any of the patients that we acquire, if any of them tell their friends and family, that's more. We're not count, but we know that's very reasonable to expect. If they do everything else, if they give you a review, there's added value. What do you say? And I'd rather just for them, just rather than this gross, blunt, small business association or whatever statistics, just if this works for you, it's working for you. So forget about the rest of the world.
I know sometimes we have to, stay in our own lane and stop the comparison trap. In all aspects of life. I mean, we'll just apply it to marketing from here, but it is definitely in different spaces. Now, do you ever consider different marketing strategies for different types of specialties? Let's use an extreme example, oncology versus pediatrics, right? Like it's a different feel. Do you get that specific when you're talking about this differentiation with your clinics?
To a degree, for us, so let's just take them one at a time. The pediatrics practice is very much like direct, it's primary care for children. So it's very much, so that's that's the website, that's Google, that's some social, that's, asking for reviews. It's some email. It's like a whole kind of package that's in there because that's required. Because they are going direct. The referral base, so there's like direct, get them directly, get them through referral.
Okay.
So the referral base for them, so OBGYNs, it's true, but for the rest of it, it's really more like through your patient volume, kind of, sort of. Oncologist is the opposite. So for us, an oncologist would, in my opinion, not need nearly as much. What they need from like people like me, what they really need, I think, is just a really good referral network. All do, but more of their patients are going to get referred from other providers who will spot, the need for referral. So you just don't need as much of us. Now there are other marketing services out there that specialize in helping people, figure out how do I build a referral network? How do I really do that in a systematic way? That if you need that kind of training and coaching, then yes, then that's viable for you. But really, what should an oncologist have? I still think they ought to have reviews. I'm not sure what else. Maybe some other stuff. Still need a basic website so that people, those sorts of things. I will say, even for the oncologists or these super specialists, don't discount the fact that the patient who just got referred to you is still checking you out online, still has to like what they see. You still have competition too. So don't poo-poo these things about, I don't need a website. I don't need these things. Yeah, you do. I mean, unless you are like overflowing, you're so rare in what you do, it doesn't truly matter. Okay. But you still, remember, you still need a welcoming waiting room. You still need these basic other things.
No, I don't think I've definitely not left a physician because of their website, but, when I'm kind of like on the fence and I'm like, they're just not modern enough. And it's, they're just, their staff either just does it. It just makes me wonder, like, are they keeping up with, all the newest, latest, greatest things? And they don't have, I'm a very basic patient. I don't have a lot of challenges, but it does make me, are you investing in being a business or, as a patient, like, what is the feeling? And it's also kind of shocking, right? Like sometimes you'll have this feeling and this aesthetic and like this, I don't know, presence online. And then I go into the waiting room and I'm like, this place is a dump. Like we are showing like this, they just must have used stock photos online to show me what their office looked like.
Right.
It's a completely different picture.
Right.
And it really erodes trust a little bit. It feels like a little bit of a bait and switch of, someone that I've been following or, interested in through an online relationship and like that part of client acquisition, patient acquisition, and then I get there in person and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is a little different than I was expecting.
Yeah. And you just created a question mark in that patient's mind. Why would you want to do that? Maybe you weren't aware of it. Now you are if you're listening to this. But why would you, if you're going to spend a few $1,000s to, modernize your waiting room, spend the same on a website. I mean, come on. Hosting a website is not all but nothing. It's not nothing, but it's very small. Why not? I mean, why create a question mark about you, your practice, the experience with you? Don't do that.
And you talked about that your company is HIPAA compliant. What kind of things do physicians and practices need to be aware of in marketing related to HIPAA compliance? I mean, obviously not releasing critical information, but are there other kind of small things that sometimes catch people?
Well, that's the blind spot. I mean, marketing and HIPAA overlap. They can overlap. So here's the easiest example. Every website has a contact form on their website. And on that contact form, you ask for a patient's name and their email. And then there's usually a little open box, tell us what's the matter. But even if nobody filled that in, your name plus your email address or your phone, I've had plenty of healthcare attorneys tell me, yeah, that counts as protected health information. Even if they're not a patient yet, if they become a patient, then that's protected health information. What's the problem? Anybody who can log into your website and see that, unless you've brought them under your HIPAA compliant umbrella as the covered entity, the provider of the covered entity, you just exposed yourself just to a little bit of risk. Why do that? So we meet all the HIPAA compliance standards. We get ourselves audited on a regular basis. We only use HIPAA compliant tools. We have our own business associate agreement, which, if you don't, which most don't, because nobody thinks of this, like nobody tells them this. We can put a HIPAA compliant relationship in place, and then off we go and do our thing. That's why, I have one client where we log in every month and we look at all the new patient registration forms. And the only reason we're allowed to do that is because we have a HIPAA compliant relationship. But yeah, that's the law. That's not like
it's the law. It's
not us being anal. And it's I heard an interesting term the other week. So if you hear this, just beware. No, we're not HIPAA compliant, but we're HIPAA insured. We have a lot of insurance. To which to ask them the question, are you HIPAA compliant? The answer is still no, you are not. There's a legal framework and there's sort of an architecture and like a systems framework. Got to have both. They only have, well, not even one. There's no insurance requirements, as I'm aware of in the laws. But in any event, they're not. So ask if they're HIPAA compliant if you're going to outsource to anybody. Or you got to figure out where any PHI could be shared and not share it with them. That's another way to be compliant. Don't share any PHI.
Yes, it's a very complicated piece. And then you've looped in IT as well, right? So on that piece as well. So what I think I'm hearing from you is, don't necessarily try to be everything to everybody. Figure out what makes your clinic, what makes you and your practice unique, and really set to differentiate that from your competitors or, even in your local market. Treat your website like real estate, right? It doesn't have to do a lot. Like you said, it doesn't have to be a lot of pages. It doesn't have to be complicated, but it needs to be clean, fresh, fairly modern, and really speak in a voice that talks about that differentiation. Is that?
Yeah. And there's more like under the hood stuff that pleases Google, but yes, it doesn't matter how technically awesome your website is if people find it gross. So you really have to do both. Yes.
It has to look nice. Yeah. Yes. And then on the socials, if you're interested in playing in that space, consistency is more important than, getting on there and doing a lot of stuff at one time and then being dormant.
Yeah.
So it would be better to say, I'm going to post once a week versus, not being on a consistent schedule and just kind of doing it as a random strategy.
Correct. And consistency, let's go back to getting reviews. If you've got a couple of reviews a month, this is a gross, it depends on patient volume.
Sure.
Don't, have this initiative. We're going to get a lot of reviews and you get a bunch of them and then you get nothing for 6 months. Here's the thing about reviews. If you have an amazing review that you got yesterday, that same review, if it's a year old, will be discounted because the reader just is, we all do this. I do it. We all do it. We all do it. A review last week is more powerful than a review a year ago. And all it says is figure out a way to be asking for reviews on a regular basis. And if you're asking, you're doing all you can. There's more to it, but you got to build that habit. And if reviews come in, you're good. It's not an arms race. You don't need more than every competitor in the area. You just need some new ones on a regular basis. And if you're doing that, the gross number will take care of itself and the number will climb. And you're doing the best you can. But it's got to be consistent.
What about a negative review? How do you handle that from, a marketing perspective, or should you have kind of like a mitigation plan set up before you start asking for reviews, or knowing what the process is if you get a bad review? I mean, we all have bad days, and also sometimes we can't make everybody happy.
Yeah.
And so,
well, the number one,
what do you do with a bad review?
The number one defense against bad reviews is to have plenty of good reviews. So if you've got 30 reviews and then you get one bad one, the reader of those 31 reviews are probably going to say to themselves, what's wrong with that reviewer? Look at all these other good reviews. But if you've got 3 reviews and then you get a 4th and it's a really bad one, the natural reaction is to say, what's wrong with that practice? Because there's only a few of them. So the number one, defense. As far as what to do with that specific review, you can reply, be careful, HIPAA, you cannot disclose doctor-patient relationship. So keep it very simple. Say something like, we'd like to understand your comments better. Please contact us at, please contact our office manager. Do not say, we're so sorry you had a bad experience here. We're so sorry it's been bad for you as a patient. You just crossed a HIPAA line. Don't do that, but you can reply. But get more.
And would you say the same thing on social media if you get a bad comment? Kind of the party line of thank you for your comment.
I mean,
Please
it
contact
depends on
us,
what it is. If somebody's just spouting, like you publish about some new treatment or something, and somebody says, well, I think that sucks or whatever, I don't know. But if somebody gave you a bad review or thing, I had a really bad experience. Same thing. HIPAA is universal, no matter whether it's social, Google, your website, whatever. But you can reply. And then, but don't get into an argument or a back and forth. You'll lose. Even if you win the point, you'll lose. Because people are going to, what they're going to look at you and they're going to go, they're crazy. What are they doing? I don't want to. What if I have a comment to them? Are they going to fight me in the office? Like what? Just respectful and short.
And then looking at the ROI and metrics, really focused in on that new patient acquisition.
Yeah.
Building in somewhere in your process to potentially capture, like, how did you hear from us?
Yeah.
Through the website referral.
Yeah.
And I think that also gives you even more data. Okay, we need to, let's quote, double down on the website because we're getting all our leads are coming in through our website. So do we need to increase our SEO or paid ad? Like that gives you as the marketer more information of what's working and what's not. And can change your tactics. And
I encourage every listener to set that up today, whether you change anything or not.
Okay.
You should know. This is me, I'll sit on the high horse. I urge you to learn and to know where your new business is coming from, generally speaking, because then you'll know. And it's probably, we don't, our clients stay with us a long time. We don't have massive volumes of new clients, but probably 30 to 40% of the new client prospect calls we go through. Turns out they don't need anything, because when you start where are you getting them from? What do you need? And they're actually in better shape than they thought. And then I'll say to them, we can talk, but I don't know. It sounds pretty good to me. And they go, I didn't think of it that way. Or the problem isn't a marketing problem. And you can't get at that until you what is the current status? And a big part of the current status is, where is our new business coming from?
Okay. Well, so we'll take that as our pro tip of implementing as quickly as possible somewhere in your process, capturing how the new patients are showing up.
The easiest way is if you have a new patient registration form, add a question. How did you find us? Google, referral from friend and family, referral from another provider, other, and maybe one other, but don't have too many, and just start tallying it up. See what you get.
Try to make it easy. Carl, I always appreciate our conversations. I hope for our physicians listening in, you get a little marketing bug, kind of do an assessment maybe first of where you are, and then let's implement in our new patient forms pretty quickly of how those patients got there. That's a great tip. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It's great to see you again too. Thanks very much.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for joining the show.
You got it. Thanks.
Thanks for joining me on Profits in Practice. If you found today's episode helpful, Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow physician. Your financial wellness is just as important as your patient's health, and we're here to help you thrive. Connect with us via our website at webcfo.com. Thanks for joining us.